Hey YouTube, this is PrimetimePokemon. In this video, I'll be doing something a little bit different. As many of you may know, I'm trying to become more competitive in the Pokemon TCG. So on my quest to become more competitive, I've built my very own deck, and I've been battling with this deck for about the last 30 days. I've had a lot of luck with the deck, so I'll be taking an in-depth look at this deck in this video. Now this deck I actually didn't build myself. On Twitter, I found a tweet from a bit oddish, and he had two different deck builds, very similar to each other on there. I took one of his, and with his permission, I'm reviewing this deck today. The deck is based around Alolan Ninetales GX, Tapu Lele GX, Espeon EX, and then Zoroark GX. And if you're not interested in the competitive TCG, reminder, my book, Pokemon Cards, the Unofficial Ultimate Collector's Guide, which you can find on Amazon, Target, Books A Million, and Barnes & Noble, is all about the collecting side of Pokemon cards. It is essentially an encyclopedia for Pokemon card collecting. I hope to incorporate more competitive type videos on my channel in the future, so if you have any suggestions for deck reviews that you'd like me to do on certain types of decks, please let me know. I am in the process of building a Gardevoir GX deck. I'll be showing that deck probably in the next couple of weeks on my channel. But again, if you have any suggestions for me at all on my videos, I'm always looking to improve. I always read all the comments in all of my videos. So enjoy the deck review. So before I get to showing all of the cards in my deck on the screen, I can show everything included in this deck. So 60 total cards, 18 Pokemon, 30 trainer cards, and 12 energy. And again, I just am getting into the competitive TCG. If you want to battle with me or trade with me on the online game, my screen name there is PrimetimePokemon. And on the table in front of me, you can see the playmat that I battle with. I use the Shining Legends playmat. Love the Shining Pokemon on there. Was able to obtain this from the Shining Legends Super Premium Collection box. So here are all 60 cards in my deck, and I do keep my cards in protection normally. For videos, I usually take them out, either if they're in 9 pocket pages inside of a binder, or if they're in top loaders and sleeves, but I'll keep the cards in the sleeves for this video. These types of sleeves are supposed to be anti-glare, which they do a pretty good job. Now, I do not have a league in the city that I live. I may try and start one. Someone's contacted me, a Pokemon professor in the area, and we may try and get a league started. But I have battled with this deck probably 30 times, have not lost with this deck, but the person that I'm playing, he just is getting into the competitive TCG, so he definitely doesn't have as many cards as I do to choose from, and he's working on coming up with a better deck, but I still have a very good idea of the strategy involved with this deck. So first up, I'll get to the Pokemon here. 18 total Pokemon. I have Water type, Lightning type, and Psychic, as well as Darkness. So 4 different types in this deck. And that is a question I get a lot. You can use as many types as you want in a deck. You just have to have the necessary energy to attack with those cards. And as you'll see here, most of these Pokemon have Colorless type moves. So first up would be the Alolan Vulpix and Alolan Ninetales line. I have 4 Alolan Vulpix. This is from the Guardians Rising set, card number 21 of 145. There's also an Alolan Vulpix in Burning Shadows. I prefer this one. The one in Burning Shadows, I believe the first move that doesn't require any energy is a coin flip to see if you put the defending Pokemon to sleep. And then the second move for 2 water energy cards does 30 damage. Now this Alolan Vulpix, the one from Guardians Rising, 60 HP, which is an excellent HP, 2 moves on it. This Icy Snow move is very good because it just requires a double colorless energy. And then Beacon, I really like it, similar to an Ultra Ball trainer where you can search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. And I like that because you can get GX or EX cards. There is not any restrictions on what type of Pokemon you can get with Beacon. So 4 of Alolan Vulpix. Now, if I really wanted to, I could have 4 Alolan Ninetales GX and 4 Alolan Ninetales, but I have 3 Alolan Ninetales GX. This is from Guardians Rising, 22 of 145 is a card number. So I actually have 4 Alolan Vulpix and then 5 Alolan Ninetales between the GX and the non-GX. And the reason I have more Alolan Ninetales is because you can always go into your discard pile and pull out an Alolan Vulpix that has been knocked out if you need Alolan Vulpix. So Alolan Ninetales GX HP of 210. I have a lot of GX and EX cards in this set. The risk here is that if one is knocked out, 2 prize cards are taken instead of 1. As you'll notice here, 2 moves on the card that require colorless energy, or really 1 double colorless energy. Ice Blade does 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, so you can do some spread attack type damage with Alolan Ninetales GX with Ice Blade. And as you'll see with Tapu Koko later, that can really help. Same with Espeon EX. And then Blizzard Edge, which I really don't use, does 160 damage. For 3 energy cards, however, you must discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. You can use the Aqua Patch trainer to retrieve those water energy cards from your discard pile. And then Ice Path GX, move all damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. And you can't use more than 1 GX move per game. I really haven't used Ice Path GX either. It's really Ice Blade on this card. So 3 of Alolan Ninetales GX. It's really all about spreading damage around with Ice Blade. Only 1 double colorless energy to use that move. Next up, I have 2 Alolan Ninetales. This is from the Burning Shadow set, card number 28 of 147, and I love the ability on this card. And this ability, called Luminous Barrier, says, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX. So you put this out into the active Pokemon spot, and really, and in my case, my opponent that I'm battling quite a bit, a friend of mine, has this card in his deck, and it is really a pain when you face this card. You have to hopefully have a basic Pokemon or something other than a GX or EX card set up on your bench to actually do any damage. And it does have an above average HP for a stage 1 card, and Aurora Beam does do above average damage for 3 energy cards, really 2 energy cards in this deck with the double colorless energy and the water type energy. So I really love this card. It is a big help to help prevent your opponent from using powerful EX and GX Pokemon. So there are all of the water type Pokemon in this really water type deck. And as far as energy goes, I just have double colorless and then the water type. This Tapu Koko card is next, and both SM30 and SM31 are exactly the same card move-wise, a little bit different illustration. These are from the Tapu Koko figure collection box and then the Tapu Koko pin collection box. And this is a move that spreads damage around as well, similarly to the Alolan Ninetales GX. So a good HP for a basic Pokemon. And then Flying Flip for essentially 1 double colorless energy card. Says this attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So essentially, if your opponent has a full bench, it can do 120 damage per turn. I have had this card get knocked out fairly often. That is why I have 2 of them, as you can see here. But I like to use this card as well as the Alolan Ninetales, and then I put in Espeon EX to knock out all of my opponent's Pokemon at once. And that's the next card that I'll be showing here. I just have 1 Espeon EX. Now this is a basic Pokemon, and you may say, why is Espeon basic? All EX cards like this are basic. Has a good HP for an EX, 170, but Miraculous Shine is the move I use for this card. It says devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. I have had this work a couple of times when I've been battling. You spread damage around with either Tapu Koko or Alolan Ninetales GX. Then you put this card into the active Pokemon spot, and you'll notice on that Tapu Koko it has a free retreat cost, so you can easily move that in and out of the active Pokemon spot. You use this 1 turn, devolve your opponent's Pokemon, and then you potentially could knock out several Pokemon at once. If you have, let's say, 60 damage on several of your opponent's Pokemon, they devolve it. A lot of basic Pokemon that have evolution forms have 60 HP or less. You can knock out several Pokemon at once. So that's why this Espeon EX is in this deck. I don't use this strategy that often, but it has come in handy when I want to knock out several Pokemon at once. That's really the strategy here. Spread damage around and then use Espeon EX to devolve the Pokemon. Another Psychic type Pokemon, and I like that this deck has multiple types in it. That way if you are facing a certain type of deck, you're not going to be weak or resistant to the same Pokemon throughout. Tapu Lele GX I have 2 of, and this is really a staple in a lot of the decks out there right now. A very popular card and a very valuable card as well. Guardians Rising set, and this card number 60 of 145. So I have 2 Tapu Lele GX, 170 HP. The main reason to use this card, I would say, would be Energy Drive, because it requires just one double colorless energy. Its Wonder Tag ability isn't that bad as well. It says, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So that's useful. Always getting a supporter card into your hand. And then Energy Drive, this attack does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So not only can this move do a lot of damage at once, but it almost prevents your opponent from attaching energy to their active Pokemon. So it may prevent your opponent's active Pokemon from attacking, and if they do try and attack, it will do more damage to that Pokemon when using Energy Drive. And then Tapu Koko GX, which I don't use because I don't have any Psychic Energy in my deck. It says heal all damage from 2 of your bench Pokemon, which is useful, but again, I only have Water and double colorless energy in my deck. So really, Energy Drive is the reason that you'd use this card, and it only requires the 1 double colorless energy. That's really a pattern in this deck. A lot of cards require only colorless energy. So the final line in this deck would be a 2-2 line of Zorua and Zoroark GX. There is a Zorua available in Breakthrough. I prefer the Shining Legends Zorua, card number 52 of 73. I have to use a double colorless energy or 2 water type energy cards to use Ram, otherwise I can't use Stampede. But for the most part, I never put this card into the active Pokemon spot. I'm always hoping to use Zoroark GX from the bench. Once it's set up, it's pretty good in the active Pokemon spot, but Zorua, not hoping to use as a starter type Pokemon. I really do like this Zoroark GX. You can get this in GX Full Art form in a Black Star promo, the Zoroark GX Premium Collection box. But I love this card overall. Its ability, specifically, it's called Trade, and it says, once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. So I use this ability all the time, have multiple Zoroark GX in this deck as well, so I can use this ability multiple times if I have both cards on the bench or in play. And I use this ability with Mallow, which I'll show in a minute, but those 2 cards really work well. And then Righteous Beating does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon you have in play. So it could do up to 120 damage. I was reading on some comments that I believe it's the Skyfield Stadium card that would expand your bench. And that's out of the standard format right now. Breakthrough is the oldest that you can use, so that can't be used anymore. You could do way more damage if you could use that card, so you could use it in the expanded format. But still, very good move on this card, Righteous Beating. I like this move quite well. Can't use its GX move, but between its ability and its 1 move, which just requires colorless energy, really do love this card. So that is really it for the Pokemon in this deck that I've built. And definitely give me your thoughts and any cards that I could add or remove in this deck to make it better. Now I'll get on to the trainer cards. 30 trainer cards total in this deck. And this is something much different than the theme decks out there. You have a lot more trainer cards. So first up, I'll show the items. And this is a reason that Garbodor is so good in the competitive TCG, because it can do damage for each item card in your discard pile. I have 16 item cards in my deck overall. If I have, let's say, 10 item cards in the discard pile, it can do major damage when attacking. So first up, I have 4 Aqua Patch trainer cards, and this is very good in this particular deck. It says attach a water energy from your discard pile to one of your benched water Pokemon. So if you get a Pokemon knocked out, or if you use a supporter like a Professor Sycamore where you have to discard your hand, you can put water energy cards into your discard pile and quickly get those back. And really, I only have 9 water type Pokemon in this deck, so really the Alolan Vulpix Ninetales line is the only water type Pokemon I can use these types of cards with, but it is very helpful. So 4 Aqua Patch, and this is from the Guardians Rising set, card number 119 of 145. Ultra Ball is next, and I have 3 Ultra Ball trainer cards. Ultra Ball's been in a ton of different sets out there: Dark Explorers, Plasma Freeze, Flash Fire, and Sun and Moon. This is from Shining Legends here. But I have 3 Ultra Ball, and it says discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So like I mentioned earlier with the Alolan Vulpix, similar move on that card. Really like this card as well. You can get the GX and EX cards out quite quickly. 3 of this card. Choice Band is next, and you can get this as a secret rare in Burning Shadows. This is from Guardians Rising. I have 3 Choice Band, and if you were facing a deck like the one I'm showing here, this would be very good. But this is a tool card, so you attach it to one of your Pokemon, and it says the attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon GX or active Pokemon EX. So you can increase damage that you're doing to those powerful Pokemon, and it may prevent your opponent from moving one of those types of cards to the active Pokemon spot. One of the best Pokemon tool cards is next. This is the Floatstone Trainer. You can get this in Plasma Freeze as well as Breakthrough. And this just gives a Pokemon a free retreat cost. You attach this to a Pokemon like the Choice Band. With this deck, like Tapu Koko has a free retreat cost, several other Pokemon have just a 1 colorless energy retreat cost, but anytime you can retreat a Pokemon for free, really works out. And with less energy in this deck than compared to a theme deck, having a free retreat cost really helps. Really like that Floatstone Trainer card, bought several of those. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw I bought a ton of trainer cards from Troll & Toad. I do have all of those cards somewhere in my house, but I've searched probably 5-6 hours. My cards are not organized at all. I thought to myself, let's just buy a trainer card like that for $1, $2 a piece instead of spending hours and hours trying to find the supporter and trainer cards. But hopefully in the future I'll be more organized. Next up would be Field Blower. And this is from the Guardians Rising set as well. As far as the TCG goes, I would say Guardians Rising is the best Sun and Moon series set. I have not used this card that much in battle, but it can be very useful. It says, choose up to 2 in any combination of Pokemon tool cards and stadium cards in play and discard them. So maybe you have a tool card attached to one of your Pokemon that lets you draw every time a Pokemon is damaged. You may be running out of cards in your deck and may want to discard that tool card. Be very useful. Field Blower here. Or if there's a stadium card in play that your opponent is using, you could get that out of the playing field as well. And then 2 more item cards that I have. One is Rescue Stretcher, and this is from the Guardians Rising set as well. It says to do one of 2 things. Put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. This is a card like I was talking about you could use with Alolan Vulpix. Since I have more Alolan Ninetales in this deck than Vulpix, you could use it to get it back from the discard pile. I usually use the first option, but again, if you're running out of cards in your deck, you could potentially use its second option here. And then the last item card that I have, and this is from Steam Siege, Special Charge, and I use this with the double colorless energy. It allows you to shuffle 2 special energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Now on to the supporter cards. I have 14 different supporter cards in this deck, and with supporter cards you only can use 1 supporter per turn. First up would be Professor Sycamore. And this card's been in a ton of different sets out there. Majority of these are from Phantom Forces, but you can also get in an XY base set, BREAKpoint, and Steam Siege. So Professor Sycamore allows you to discard your hand and draw 7 cards. I do also have N supporter in this deck, and early in the game N is better than later in the games. So I use Professor Sycamore usually a little bit later in battle. Then I have one of the full art from Steam Siege. And with cards like the Aqua Patch item that I showed earlier, I can discard my hand. I may have some water energy in my hand, discard that, get it back with the Aqua Patch. So it's not a big deal if I discard certain cards. Supporter N is next, and this card has been in Noble Victories, Dark Explorers, and then Fates Collide. And here's a look here. I have 4 Supporter N. This just makes each player shuffle his or her hand into his or her deck, and then each player draws a card for each of his or her remaining prize cards, so it's good to use early in games. I've also made my opponent pretty upset before using this card. They finally draw something they want, or they use a specific trainer card to get a card they want into their hand. Then I use N. They have to shuffle that card back into their deck. I have 4 of this card, a very popular supporter card right now, and luckily still in the standard format. Guzma is next. This is from Burning Shadows. I have 3 Guzma, and it says switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. If you do, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. And this is similar to Escape Rope, and the advantage with this card is that you get to choose which Pokemon of your opponents you put into the active Pokemon spot. So potentially you could spread damage around with the Alolan Ninetales GX or the Tapu Koko, put one of those Pokemon into the active Pokemon spot, and then knock it out in 1 turn. So 3 Guzma. I have 2 Mallow, and this is another supporter from Guardians Rising. Really love this card. It says search your deck for up to 2 cards, shuffle your deck, then put those cards on top of it in any order. And the way that I use this is I use this card, then I use Zoroark GX's ability, Trade, to just draw those 2 cards right after I put the 2 cards I want on the top of the deck. So love these 2 supporters working with Zoroark GX. And then the final supporter that I have in this deck would be Professor Kukui. Just the one, and it says, draw 2 cards. During this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you could have the Choice Band tool card attached to your Pokemon and use this Professor Kukui, and you could do a ton of extra damage to a GX or an EX. So there are all of the trainer cards, like I said, 30 in total. Some of my favorites, I really like the Aqua Patch with this specific deck, as well as the Mallow, and tie that in with the Zoroark GX. As far as energy cards go, I just have 12 total. Any competitive deck that you're going to build is more than likely going to have 4 double colorless energy. I use that special charge to recycle those double colorless energy as well. Several sets have double colorless energy. Shining Legends, Guardians Rising, Sun and Moon, Evolutions, Fates Collide, Generations, a ton of different sets. And then 8 basic water energy. Would love to put the secret rare water energy from Crimson Invasion in this deck, but for the most part, I don't play my more valuable cards in decks like this. So there you have it. There is my deck that I have built, actually the one that A Bit Oddish built and that I've just been using, so I'd like to thank him for really giving me the idea of this deck. Definitely check out his YouTube and Twitter pages if you'd like. I follow him on Twitter. Definitely a good follow on there. But there you go. Let me know of what you think about this deck that I've built, and if you have any tips for improvement on future deck videos that I do on my channel. Like I said, in the process of building a Gardevoir GX deck, should be making a review of that deck in the future as well. Also, if you have any good names for this deck, let me know in the comment section of this video. So there you have it. Thanks everyone for watching. As always, make sure to check out all the links in the description of this video before you go, including links to my blog, Facebook, and Twitter pages, as well as a link to my deck review playlist. So there you have it, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.